is the 13 Seasons live stream for our perception season, and I have Braden here. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, glad to be here, Josh.
Thanks. Oh yeah, I'm Josh. For anyone who shows up that doesn't know me, so we're here to talk about the idea of honing perception, as articulated on the 13seasons.org website. I think this is a really, really, really important concept because I think it's so easy in the modern world to just be. We think that our thoughts are the entirety of our experience, and it's almost like an addiction or obsession. Just be like thoughts. And sometimes I think we just need to come to our senses, so to speak, and just like actually exist in the space we're in. I think that's really important for mental health. I think it's really important for all kinds of reasons. Eckhart Tolle is a really famous thinker who talks about how if he says that if he's really concerned, and being the generation he's a little older than two of us, but he's really he spent a lot of his life being concerned about the existential crisis of nuclear war and stuff like that, and he just really feels like if people can just learn to like be in a room and enjoy not doing anything, but just enjoy perceiving what's around them, that's the solution to nuclear war. There's more people learning to do that. So I think this is important stuff. So to start us off, to kind of go in, Braden, I think you looked at the website. I'm curious, do you have any thoughts or questions or anything to get us going today on this topic?
Yeah, I do. I spent some time looking over your content, Josh, and I think the virtue to start off, the virtue of honing perception is an important one. I think that just the idea of being a little bit more present, and kind of some of the skills. I guess I'd say skills, right? Like some of these things aren't, and maybe it's just because we're busy, like you explained, and we're doing things that it takes skills to kind of do something so basic, so human. So I guess one of my questions for you was, what made this, what was the inception as far as honing perception, making the cut, really, I guess, into your virtues list? Was there a story or an experience that kind of kicked that off for you personally?
Yeah, thank you. That's a really good question. And someone, RJ Giovellano just joined us and said hello and just subscribed. Thank you. Welcome. I think you're subscriber number 99. So one more, I'll have 100. So yeah, that's a really good question. So all of these virtues, I guess, okay, to answer that question, I think the question can be answered with the concept of honing perception. So perception, I say there's two sides to it. Both are really important. There's physical perception and, oh, thank you, 100. There's physical perception and there's spiritual perception. And it's really important to do both. It's easy to prioritize one or the other. But we're dual beings, right? We're a body and a spirit together. And so if we're going to fully be ourselves, we have to do both really well. If we do just physical perception, we'll have so much peace and it'll be wonderful. But we're missing a whole dimension of our existence, right? But if we just do spiritual perception, then we're not actually living in this world. And that's missing out an opportunity as well. And so both are really important. So this list of 13 virtues that we emphasize here definitely was what came about because of just through spiritual perception. And the way it came about was I didn't personally make this list. I have a friend who's a very, very dear friend of mine who is just a really spiritual guy. He's the kind of guy who who like I'll be going through a hard time and he'll just text me out of nowhere and say,
Mhm.
"Hey, I felt really prompted to pray for you just now. What's going on?" Like it's just out of nowhere that happens. He's just a really, really just in tune kind of guy, and he had a really strong kind of he had experience to start with a fight from his wife. He had a fight with his wife, and the fight with his wife was basically came down to they were fighting over like scripture and the Bible and stuff like that, and he kind of felt she had the strong impression that there was stuff in the Bible that's missing. It's important, and he was just like, nah, everything you know is here, and they had this fight about it, and then, and it ended up being really heated, I guess. But then he started thinking about it afterwards, and he had this really strong impression that there are principles in the Bible that he needed to discover that it wasn't there. And so he read the entire Bible from beginning to end, looking for these principles. Are you frozen? I think we may have lost you. Uh-oh. Oh, no, you're back. Okay.
Okay. Sorry.
So he read the entire Bible from beginning to end, trying to discover what these principles that were missing were. And he felt like he would discover them like by like somehow like he would see through the lines. It's kind of like looking at if you look at the sky and instead of looking at the stars, you look at the dark space between the stars. Mm-hmm. He was kind of reading the Bible from that perspective. He was just trying to spiritually tune to just read between the lines what's missing.
Yeah.
And when he did so, he discovered 12 principles that are 12 of the 13 principles.
Okay.
And when he discovered these 12 principles, he discovered that these 12 principles, he really felt these 12 principles were the principles that were evoked for the world to be created.
Sure.
That like the idea, if you look at 12 principles, you can kind of start seeing how well, goodbye everyone who's leaving. It's good you were here. But he started looking at these 12 principles, and if you start looking at the 12 principles closely, you can start seeing how this could be, how they're like creative principles. Mm-hmm. And one way to look at them is just even like as a baby. So like the first principle is love everyone. So or the 12th principle, I mean. So if you start at 12 and go back, like when a new baby comes into the world, they're nothing but love. Like a new baby doesn't even perceive themselves as different than the world around them, is what psychology has learned until the near phase. So new babies they exist, everything is them, and they are everything, and they just are love. But then the baby eventually gets to the point where they perceive themselves as a separate entity than others, and then we get to the 11th principle of know yourself. And then once they know yourself, they can discern the difference between things and start figuring out. Once they know they exist in the world, they can start exploring what works and doesn't work, which is discerning truth, right? Like crying gets me this result. That is a true principle, right?
Yeah.
And then they're able to start perceiving the world around them because they start learning that they need to get it's intertangled with the idea that they need to get results. They start perceiving the world around them, and they start forming understanding or schema about how this works. And then it goes on through those principles, right? So these 12 principles are like principles of deep creation, and I believe that even like when God and the angels made the world, that they got together and use these 12 principles to organize the elements, right? Like so, like they would need to love the elements and see the elements, and they would need to help the elements to know themselves, and they would if the elements are instruct the elements of how to move and engage with the element's agency and et cetera. So all these principles are like creation principles. But I believe they can be used to create anything. So like I'm a screenwriter is one of my skills. And I've like spent time thinking about how these 12 principles, I use them every time I write a screenplay. I use all 12 of them. And but perhaps most importantly, they're like the 12 principles to create a good life for yourself. Like that's like that. In that way, they're virtues, right? Like if I want to create a good life where I exist well with other people, like I create that with these 12 creative principles. So my friend, he discovered all this, and then he was telling me about it, and I just like really felt like it was important, like really, really important. And I got like really, I just got really like, it just lit me up. And, um, and he, and then, so we started like comparing notes about it, and we
Sure.
started like, both of us and one other, two other friends got involved as well. So 4 of us started looking at it and just like all like kind of prayerfully seeking spiritual downloads. And all of us, we started getting more and more pieces, and we started putting the puzzle piece together. I remember during that time, there was this like, continuous, it was about a year to kind of put all the pieces together. And there was just, we had this text thread that was continuous where we just every day would be learning stuff and texting each other. It was just really exciting. Yeah. And we started like really like nailing down how it all works, and with lots of really exciting stuff. And then at the end of a year, we pretty much had all like the basics about how it all works sort of figured out.
Mm-hmm.
And then came the hard work of living it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that part sometimes felt a little more boring. It was like this year of intense discovery, and then it was like, well, I think we know most of it now. Now we got to live it. And then it was like, and then at first it kind of felt like just kind of not as exciting to just be like living it, right? But each of these principles has like a season attributed to them.
Mm-hmm.
And the seasons actually relate to they're connected to, and actually, the reason there's 13, not 12, is that when during that time of discovery, at one point, I just had this really strong impression that it was funny. Actually, what I was doing is, I was working in our garden, and I was putting like rocks around the border of the garden, right? And I was thinking of these principles because they felt so much to me. So I put like, I was putting like 12 rocks, right, to symbolize 12.
Yeah.
And then I put 13 on accident. Like I didn't know I did it. I just put 13 without realizing I'd done it. And then I kind of like, wait, that's the wrong amount. And then I was going to take the 13th one out, and the spiritual perception said to me, leave it there because there's 13 of them. And I was like, what? And so I texted my friend and said, I think there's 13 of these, not 12. And he was like, what? What are you talking about?
But I don't know what the 13th is yet, right?
Yeah. And so then and then by the end of that, and then we texted each other rapidly for a few minutes. And by the end, we kind of had 13th figured out, that it was stewardship, and it kind of it's like the culmination of all the others.
Sure. Yeah.
And we started noticing all these patterns, right? These kind of sacred patterns, like there's 12 tribes of Israel, because the 13th one's sort of its own category. There's like 12 tribes of Israel, but then there's a 13th tribe, Levi, that's sort of its own separate thing. And there's like 12 apostles plus Jesus, right? And even the zodiacs in the sky. So like, there's these zodiacs in the sky that are, 12 constellations that have a special spot in the sky.
Yeah.
But there's actually 13 of them. There's 12 that most people talk about, but there's a 13th one that people usually ignore, and it has to do with the Babylonians. The Babylonians had a 12-base number system. We have a 10-base number system. They had a 12-base number system. So when the Babylonians revised, they took the zodiacs and like they wrote the Babylonians established the zodiac system we use today, and they like just ignored one of them on purpose so that it would fit their 12-base number system.
Yeah, it had to fit. So that you're cut, right? The 13th guy, you're out. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. So I just ignored one of them. The 13th one, it's called it starts with an O. I forgot how to say it, but it's the one that it's actually the one that's right now is the 13th one.
Interesting.
One they cut. But they, so there's these zodiacs in the sky. There's 12 of them, and then there's actually 13, right? So there's this pattern that we started seeing that in like in nature, and even our fingers have a 12 pattern, right? You have 12 joints here, and you can use your thumb to point to them. Like our fingers actually built to count to 12. And so, and 12 is the lowest number that's divisible into thirds, quarters, and halves.
Sure. Okay. Isn't the Jewish calendar 13 months?
I don't know.
Is it
it's a moon-based calendar, so it probably is.
Yeah, I think it is 13 months.
Yeah.
Now that you mention it.
So there's like the system of 12 plus a 13th. It's like a pattern in like sacred stuff. Even the Bible, other things like Islam has like 24 principles of love, whereas Christianity has 12. If you look at Paul's, charity is, there's 12 things listed there.
Yeah.
And like if you look at there's one thing I was thinking of. There's 12 sons of Ishmael in like the what do you call it? The who's like Ishmael's sort of like the father of all the Arab people, right?
Yeah.
And there's 12 sons. So there's this 12 just appearing everywhere in these sacred and mathematic sources, right? And so as we started looking at that, we started looking at all these different sources. And one day we were actually looking at the Bible, and we were looking at the place where Jacob blesses his 12 sons. And one of my friends was looking at that, and she suddenly just noticed. She was like, wait a second. Because when Jacob blesses 12 sons, he blesses like one to be like a lion, one to be like a bull, he blesses each of them to be like a different animal. And she was like, these are the 12 zodiacs. It just hit her like she hadn't noticed it before. And I was like, oh, and like, Abraham was an astronomer. Like a lot of the ancient Jewish people were really into astronomy.
Yeah.
And so it seems that when Jacob blessed his sons, he like intentionally wrote like kind of like he was aware that he had 12 sons and they're like these zodiacs, right? As the Babylonians hadn't turned him into 12 yet, but maybe he was just like, I'm the 13th. I don't know what you do with that. But no, there were 13 because Joseph had two sons that were made his sons.
Yes.
Right? So there were 13.
So we had the 13th there. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it seems that when he blessed them, he was intentionally referencing the stars on purpose. And then when we started looking at that connection, we got another spiritual download that, kind of inspired by Genesis, where it says that the stars are there for signs and for seasons. We got this strong sense that these 13 principles correlate to 13 seasons of the year, and that where the zodiacs are in the sky tells you when it's time to focus on which one. It's like God put like a calendar in the sky to help you know when to do what.
I think one of the powerful, like reading this concept of seasons on the website, I think that kind of such a powerful thing is we live in this world where it feels like you always have to do more, right? It's sort of like kind of we get a feeling we're not enough, or you could always be better. But the concept of seasons, in like a personal development mindset, is so helpful because it's like this is my focus, and I don't have to be perfect at all of them during this season. And I think that's a really it's gracious, right? Like it feels like there's grace, there's freedom to be my best, but not have to like be perfect, really. So I thought that was a great concept.
And interestingly, Franklin Roosevelt, or not Frank Roosevelt. I'm saying the wrong people. Benjamin Franklin.
We got there.
Benjamin Franklin. He even did something. He had 13 virtues he wanted to live by.
Yeah,
they weren't exact. Some of them actually are in this.
Very similar.
All of them.
They're
very similar. Yeah. And he did the same thing. He did a little differently. He noticed that the year is divisible by 13. Like that's something he noticed, that like the year actually divides by 13 better than 12. If we had a 13-month calendar, if we had a 13-month calendar, we wouldn't. If we had a 13-month calendar, you wouldn't have to have months with different lengths anymore. You could have all the months be the same length, which would be really nice. And so he broke what he did is he did one a week and went through all 13 and started over, so that he would go through all 13 4 times. But
I didn't know that. That's really interesting.
Yeah. But he did that, and it was his experiment. It was the same idea. He was like, he's decided these are the 13 ways I want to grow, but it'd be overwhelming to do all these. So he would do one at a time, focus one at a time, and then when in his journals you see and he would journal at the end of every day how well he did it that day at it.
Yeah,
so you see him like documenting it. And then he did that for a little while, and then stopped. In his journal, he wrote, I don't feel like I did as well as I thought I would, but I'm a much better person than if I hadn't done it.
which is a great perspective, right? To be like, hey man, this is hard, but I'm still doing all right.
Yeah. In the chat, Brendan also points out, well, one, our friend RJ Giovellano keeps leaving and coming back. It's good. That's a fun little peekaboo fun time. Thank you. And then Brendan says, lunar cycles, Western musical scale repeats after 12 semitones with the completion of the 13th. Oh, so there you go. Another 12, 13 thing. It's all over the place, this 12 and 13 thing.
Hey Josh. Hey, sorry, yeah. I'm having some. I'm just going to drop off the camera for a second here. I'm having trouble catching the. I'm just worried bandwidth, so I'm just going to go off camera for a minute, see if I can hear you a little bit better.
Cool, sounds good.
Perfect. Let's do this.
Is that working better for you? Okay. What else? Yeah. Anyway, so you asked one question about where this all came from, and that's yeah, that's pretty much it. And I just really believe that there is, how do I say this? That there's like unseen energy to things, and that there's, I don't know. It's like, I've used this example before. It's like your like one time I went my oldest kid and I went on a canoe trip, and I hadn't been canoeing since I was like a teenager, so it'd been like 30 years, something, or 20 years since I'd been canoeing, and it was my kid's first canoe we were doing. And the whole time we were at the back, like we were so far behind everyone, and everyone kept having to wait for us to catch up. And it was like super embarrassing. And I started, asking people what the heck's going on and trying to figure out why we were so far behind. And then the other people helped me understand that I wasn't working with the currents. I was just trying to row in a straight line. Like I saw what the direction I wanted to go, and I just row there. But when I did that, it meant that I would run into currents that were working against me. And then, we'd be working hard to row, but not getting very far, right? But the other people, they learned and they knew to look for the currents and row in the currents so that the current would help you go, and they would go a lot faster. So it wasn't necessarily they were like stronger than us or like more or better rowers, like physically, like strength wise, or it was that they just had the knowledge to row in the right spot. And I think for me, that's the example of how these 13 seasons work, that, all 13 of these virtues are good, and growing any of them is a good thing. But when you do it in their season, you're doing it in the current. And there's something that I'm still learning to understand about like the appointed time and the Earth's energy, where our planet is somehow calibrated in a way where when you do the right virtue in the right season, it's like going with the current, and it's much easier to grow personally than if you're doing it off season. Because you're going with the frequency of the Earth. And I've just having practiced this, and this is kind of like this has become like our family culture. Like in our family, there's various traditions we have to, as a whole, all five of us, to like, we do a party to start when each season starts. We do a party. It's a fun party that has like fun things you do together for the season. We always eat food that's symbolic of the season, like a snack, like a treat that's symbolic of the season, and we do like fun activities that's symbolic of that season. So like that helps the whole family in a fun way to orient themselves to what we're doing now. And then like in our family, discussions and stuff during each season, we'll like over dinner and stuff, we'll occasionally, not every night, but some nights we'll like talk about what people, what's going on with the people's thoughts for that season. And then like even sometimes when we watch like television shows together or something, not every time, but sometimes I'll just kind of be like, hey everyone, so in that show, did you see any of the principles of this season that it is? And so by doing things like that, it helps the whole family to be oriented on the season that it is. And we've been doing that. Like I said, it took a year to learn this stuff, and then it's been, applying it. So we have 6 years as our family. We have 6 years applying it now. We're in the middle of our 7th year of applying this stuff, and my experience, and it's just, we just have really good kids. I don't know. I don't want to come off as like braggy or something, because I'm not bragging. I'm just trying to say that this works. As our family focus on these principles in their season in a way that feels very kind of effortless, like it doesn't feel like you're trying to force anything. We just flow like rowing with the current, and we just flow in good ways. And Jamie and I've had lots of experiences where people say to us like, man, your kids are so good. Like, why are they so good? And I don't know how to answer that other than we do this in a season. Like that's kind of like the thing we've been doing.
Well, Josh, I want to jump in here and tell you, because I know your kids. I agree, you have really good kids, and I appreciate, I guess, the intentionality. It's so, I think as a parent, it's so easy to just get stuck in the like day to day, right? Like the stuff you have to do. But doing like being intentional, like that's really powerful.
Yeah, it really is. That's a really good point. Yeah, because it's easy to just let life go by, isn't it? Instead of like, be like, wait, how are we gonna make sure to do this thing? Yeah.
Okay, Josh, I got to ask you a question though. Earlier, when you were talking about the kind of the inception of the 13 seasons and the excitement surrounding, discovery and work, especially because you were collaborating, right? This wasn't just an individual effort. So exciting to be working with some good friends and discovering things and kind of, talking back and forth, and then it came to the, okay, we've discovered the principles, we've got this now we got to live them. And okay, you've done it for a few years now, and appreciate that you're finding success. What I guess I'm curious, like if you could share a little bit of like from your personal experience or your story, how you kind of got the momentum going, right? Because that's the hard thing. Like the principles. How did you get that momentum going with you and your family?
Do you mean like, maybe you mean, do you mean like me personally having the momentum to like, or like help, or like kind of get everyone on the same page and or what do you mean by that?
You know what? I think I want both now that you've opened that opportunity. I was thinking about you personally. But I, as a father, I sometimes struggle to get everybody on the same page. I would like both, please.
I like this question. It's interesting to reflect on. So for me personally, it didn't feel like, I think after spending a year investing so much of my energy learning the principles, like discovering them, living them, just seemed like the most natural thing to do. Like I said, I mean, I did say, it was, some of the excitement was gone of that discovery phase, but still, I mean, it's kind of like when you invest people say, like, if you invest lots of money in nice exercise clothes, you're more likely to exercise, it's kind of like that. I invested a year of energy into learning something. So I was just invested. Right. So that was a lot of it. I do remember one experience I had was, what was that? Oh man. It's like you were asking something and now I don't know if you're there.
Sorry. I'm having a little bit of bad connection here. No, carry on with your story there.
Okay. So that was one thing. There was definitely like an experience that like is like burned into my memory that feels like it was an important piece of it, which is that right around that year mark, when that transition was happening from like, okay, we know the principles and now we're going to do them in their season. Right about that time, I had an experience where I was just in my house and I just had this like kind of this flash suddenly come to me. Just kind of, I don't remember. I think I was just kind of walking around, right? I don't remember what I was doing. I just remember being in the house. Just kind of like, I remember like where in the house I was, just walking, down the hallway, and I just had this flash where like this image came to me. I mean, talking about perception, right? It was like, felt like some kind of like spiritual projection that was like sent to me, but it was like, it came definitely as an image. And the image was very quick. And it was the image of everyone walking around the house, but they were all walking a foot off the ground. So it's just about people walking, you know, and like they walk like normal, but their feet are a foot off the ground. And everyone, it was just normal for everyone to do that. And everyone was walking around that way. And I instantly understood what it meant. And I understood that it meant that as we as a family did what we needed to do, or did what we felt to honor, to live these virtues in their season, that it would elevate us. Like it would elevate us, like we're, you know, like that's the idea of like walking a foot off the ground, right? It's like supernatural, like elevation that's not normal and exceptional and neat. And I instantly knew that's what it meant. I just somehow, the image came with some kind of understanding, and that's what I knew it meant. And so that was very motivating for me, I think. Also, I think that this stuff just felt exciting when a lot of other stuff in life felt awfully dull. Like, you know, like my normal day-to-day job didn't feel nearly as important as living this stuff. And so this was like kind of the more exciting stuff to do. In terms of the family getting on board, I think before that we already, you know, because of our religious, you know, habits and things, we already had habits like praying together before meals and at the end of the day or whatever, and we had habits like reading scripture together, you know, and so it became very natural to just take those habits you already have and just talk about whichever season it is as part of that. And it was just kind of like people just sort of like ran with it because it didn't feel like that much of a difference, you know, like we could, you know, if we were going to do our daily scripture study, we could do that, but just be like, look for whichever principle it is in the words. Right. And so it was easy. It just felt like, and that way it made it like a more natural transition.
So would you do that intentionally, like part of your, like during that season?
Yes. Yeah. And it was funny because early on, like the first couple years, it felt really important to touch in on whatever virtue it is in season. It felt important to do it every single day. Like a day wouldn't go by without doing something as a family together on whichever virtue it was. But then after doing it a couple years, something shifted, and now we always honor the first day of each season. And then throughout the season, we just sort of like here and there talk about it. And we have a thing on our wall. That's actually a thing we did right away. Here, let me just, I'm going to show it to you, but I'm going to turn my sound off for just a sec because I'm going to go into a place that will create, I'm going to walk in another room where it's going to be loud. So I'm going to turn the sound off and just show you this real quick. So you can see there that we, you know, have that chalkboard that we mounted on the wall where we put stuff about which season it is. So that's always there, just kind of in just part of the room, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's something like, you know, as like I know that in education there's like research on how there's like good research on how like the stuff written on the wall actually has a measurable difference on like students experience. And so it's, you know, it's there on the wall. I heard someone say once that that, you know, most ancient temples of all civilizations, on the walls of their temples, they have like lots of vegetation symbols. Usually, like whatever the vegetation where they live, they'll have symbols of vegetation with lots of fruits and stuff like that, and lots of animals often. And if you think about it, what they're showing images of lots of food. And so it's almost like one way to interpret that is that they're saying, as a people, as a tribe, or as a civilization, as a city or whatever, we want to be prosperous. We want to have enough food for everyone to eat. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
And so in their holy place, they have the images that basically the images become a prayer, because every time you go to the holy place and like raise your frequency, like raise your spirituality while you're there, you're then looking at those images. And so your spirit while in that state is inclined to create what you're seeing. And so it brings on like a prayer from everyone without
yeah.
So it's like I think that's part of what's going on here is when you like I know that for me in my classroom as a teacher, because I teach high school, I put on the wall, I put stuff about which season is on the wall. I don't really talk about it much. I just kind of like put it on the wall. I usually put it, I do it in terms of like, what's the word? Affirmations. Like I'll be like, perception. It's all just write affirmations about which season is on the wall. And when I'm putting it up, I'm like visualizing the students and me like doing that while I put it up. And to me, that's like, that becomes a prayer. And then as it sits there, every time anyone looks at it, like the prayer gets reinforced just a little bit. And I think it makes a difference. So having that on the wall is a big deal. But I think we're at the point now where I'm trying to get at with our family where like the job gets done without needing to like check in about it every single day. Just doing it at the beginning of the season and checking in, checking like doing the beginning of the season, maybe checking in on Sundays and then every now and again throughout the week. While having stuff written on the wall seems to do it. It feels to me like, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's that we were just overdoing it at first, or if it's more like it's like momentum. Like at first it was important to get it spinning, and then once it's spinning really well, it kind of goes on its own.
Yeah. I'm glad you shared that, and I think that's both encouraging. It's encouraging because like it makes sense that to get the momentum going, you have to put a lot of effort in, like daily effort to like get. But then I think it's encouraging that that's not, like kind of that level of effort isn't. You don't have to sustain that kind of indefinitely. That the principles, the virtues start to, you benefit themselves, and then everybody is with a minimal kind of, this is our touch base, this is our thing on the wall, that's sufficient to kind of manage or maintain it. That's really exciting. Josh, I have a follow-up for you. And this is from your sorry, I'm the thought that you had, like your family floating like a foot off the ground.
Yeah. Oh man, you're just quiet. I can't hear you. I saw the most animated, wonderful face that a human being could have, and I couldn't hear anything you said. It was just like quiet.
Sorry. What about now?
Now I can hear you. There got to be some
Oh
kind of
man,
lesson. There got
I
to be
was
some
going
kind of
off.
lesson about perception in that. I couldn't hear you.
I
That's a perception issue
Oh
somewhere.
man, that's embarrassing. I'm not sure what went on there. This is a tough tech day for me. I apologize. Okay, Josh, I'm giving you the short one.
Okay.
You're a person that I've appreciated that sees things very visually. Like you're
Yeah.
talking about your family and seeing them all a foot above the ground. That's
Mhm.
visual, and I love talking with you because you're set. I mean, it's no wonder you're a film guy. Like you see the world
Mm.
visually.
Yeah.
That's maybe not my gift, right? And and I and so like I was curious about like your group, your friends that helped create this. Maybe some of them are less visual like you, and like how have they received kind of that confirmation, or do you think kind of the
Hmm.
visual piece is that maybe something we can all access if we put the effort in? I'm just curious on your experience or with with your friends.
That's cool. That's a really good question. That's an important question. And it's a question I think really important to address. So when it comes to like perception of spiritual things, I think what I'm about to say, if you look closely at the 9 principles of this season, you'll hear the 9 principles in what I'm going to say. The way they play out in this, because those 9 principles, it's the exact same 9 principles that help someone. Those 9 principles will help you just be really present in your environment with your physical senses, but it's the exact same 9 principles that help you hone your spiritual senses. They have like they might there might be a might need to be applied a slightly different way, right? So here's my experience with that. Is that like the guy, my friend who originally discovered the 12 things to start. One of the reasons he was impressive to me is because he would like see, he had visions. He would like see things, and I didn't have that ability, and he did. And I yearned to experience what he was experiencing, because sometimes we even be together, and he would like be like, "I'm seeing this right now." Like we were sitting there, he's like, "An angel just walked in. Did you see that?" And I was like, "No." It's just kind of like,
I want a piece of this too. Come on.
Yeah. And I just really yearned to have the experiences he was having. And I began talking to him about that. And he actually like mentored me in being able to unlock that gift. And like it was really using the 9 principles of this season that was possible. I don't think it's necessary to have a good life, frankly. But it's something that's possible if you desire it.
Yeah.
I think that there's lots of like one of the principles of the season, multiplicity. And multiplicity, meaning using multiple senses. So, with physical senses, the idea being that you're gonna understand something better if you hear it and see it than if you just hear it or something, right? And so I think spiritual senses work the same way. That if you actually are, if you're engaging more senses in a spiritual experience, then that's actually good. So and there's so many different ways to experience spirituality. Like you can see things. I know people. My wife's one of them who actually feel a rise or fall in temperature when they're having spiritual experiences. They might get warm or cold when they have a spiritual experience. There's people, who kind of like have more of like feeling based, like an emotional something. People might feel sensations in different parts of their bodies, right? And I think that when you bring multiple of these together, it's better. And that can also be multiple people, right? So if you have different people that have different sort of like spiritual senses that they're more attuned to, and you have a group of people sort of receiving something together, each kind of sharing their experience with the way they experience spiritual things, that's like better than one person. Especially if you can do it in a way where it's easy to like, because we're human, it's easy to put people with spiritual talents on a pedestal because it seems impressive. And so somewhat can be dangerous. Like with my friend I'm talking about, I put him on a pedestal for a while, and eventually it was important for me to like get him off that pedestal. Because it was actually becoming a detriment for me to have him on that pedestal. For a bunch of reasons. And because if no one's on a pedestal and you're just together, like maybe if you're like 12 people together and you're each good at one of the 12 things, if you have multiple people together, then you know, like a whole quorum of 12 people or 24 or 48. If you have multiple people together, then it's like you like, and everyone sees each other as like an equal participant, not one person's on a pedestal. Then you together you can get to a better place, and you check each other, right? Like, because it's easy to get confused or deceived or whatever. And the stronger your spiritual senses get, one of the downsides of training your spiritual senses is it's actually easier to run into problems. Because there's two things that can happen. One, when like as your spiritual senses get stronger, you become more sensitive to light, but you also become more sensitive to darkness. Like you become more sensitive to both. And it's easy for dark powers to show. It's easier for dark powers to show up and try to pretend to be light, which is something to be really. So it takes discernment. That's the 10th season is discernment, right? So it's like you combine those together. The other thing that happened though is it's easy to take your own ego. Like we all have an ego inside ourselves. The ego is the part. The ego is good. The ego is the part of us that can say I am. Like the ego is that piece of us that sees itself as separate from everything around us. And the ego is good because it's good to be a distinct being and know you're good. Like you need to see yourself as a distinct being to love, because like I talked about, like babies don't see themselves as distinct beings and they just are love, but they don't appreciate love, right? So if I can see myself as a distinct being from you, then I can appreciate the beauty of your difference, and then I can like really love instead of just being you. So it's very important to have an ego. It's very important to distinguish yourself as separate from other beings. It's part of reaching our potential, right? Like to become our highest best self, we need to be a distinct being. But the ego has been trained by thousands of years of humanity and animalness to just focus highly on survival, because the ego is terrified of death. So the ego wants really badly to, because the ego is terrified that if it dies, my ego is terrified that if I die, I'll stop being a distinct being. And my ego wants to safeguard my distinctness. And so my ego is constantly trying to save me from death over and over and over again. And the ego isn't always very good at it. Because the ego is like trained by survival skills, right? So it doesn't have like a big like holistic like spiritual perspective. And because we're humans are social creatures, like the ego sees like social rejection as death, because our ancestors would get rejected from the tribe and then die. And so the ego wants really badly to impress everyone, so that we'll be accepted, right? And the ego wants really badly to have food and sex and like scratch all the itches that help us that we do. People might call it like the natural
immediate, all the immediate stuff, right? The immediate stuff.
Yeah, all the survival stuff. And so, but the trick is the ego is not going to go away. We don't want it to go away because we want to be a distinct being. But the trick is to train the ego to submit itself to like our higher self, like the aspect of ourselves, like you might call it like the spirit or the higher self or whatever word you want to use for it, like the God self, like the ego. The ego needs to be trained to submit itself to that other part of ourselves.
Yeah.
But until you learn, and that's a process. Like, I've heard stories of some people who, like, in a moment, by just some kind of grace, just kind of like flip that switch. But most people, it's like years and years and years of practice. But the trick is the trick is that as you develop spiritual gifts, I've noticed that the ego will try to hijack them. And so the ego, once you, as you start developing the ability, because the way, like, things like visions, the way they work, in my experience, is that the spiritual world does not follow the laws of physics of our world, right? The spiritual world has completely different laws of physics. So the whole idea of seeing something doesn't even make sense there. Because seeing is like a physical process, right? Like seeing is a biological thing that has to do with photons and all this stuff. And so like in the spiritual world, you don't actually like see things in any way that, like, you can't even talk about it. Like it's just because when we're here in this world, confined in this world, we have no language or experience to even talk about what the spiritual world's like in terms of how it works there. So what happens when you have these kind of experiences, in my experience, what seems to be happening based on what I'm observing, is that first of all of us have them all the time. So what happens is, like, the spiritual part of you engages with the spiritual world, has an experience that is indescribable and has no way of expressing itself to our physical senses. And then if you're in tune enough to let it transfer to your ego, then your brain transfers it into something that your body will accept. Like, it translates it. And that's why often, that's why if it's a visual, it's symbolic. And so it's like the visual you're seeing is like something that's being created inside your brain that's trying to translate. And the pineal gland's the pineal gland is an organ in your brain that looks like a pine cone, but it's really, really small. It's like the size of a grain of rice. And the pineal gland creates hormones. It spurts out hormones and then reabsorbs and spurts them out again over and over again as you're having spiritual experiences. And one of the hormones that it will create is psychoactive. So one of the hormones it creates is the same chemical that's in ayahuasca, which is like I don't know what ayahuasca is, but it's a psychoactive drug that people that use ayahuasca have intense visual experiences. So your brain can actually produce that chemical. And when people are having spiritual experiences, things light up in the pineal gland when under a brain scan. And so my belief is that, like your ego, like basically your body, your spirit has an experience, it sends it to the body. And if you trained your body to get along with your spirit, your body translates what your spirit experienced into some kind of something that works for you. And so that can come as a visual or some other way. And the ego, and then when that happens, then the spirit's able to talk to the ego, right? Because the ego can interpret that, and then that helps the ego to learn its role, to be the obedient horse instead of trying to ride you, right? And ride the spirit. But then the other thing that happens is, as you develop those senses, the ego tries to fight back, and the ego will try to tell the brain to create visuals that it wants. And so you don't even necessarily, like, sometimes what can happen is, like, some sort of malicious dark being from the spiritual world will try to talk to you. That absolutely happens. Sure. But the other thing that happens is your own ego starts creating deceptions, and it's because your ego is like, whoa, we're going on some journey I don't like.
Hijack this, right?
Yeah, and so the ego will start like sending, like kind of creating things. But that was like a thing I went through in my journey. Is I was like when I first started, when my friend helped me develop these abilities, and like to be able to have sort of like visionary kind of experiences. I would say for a time, whether something was from like light, was from sources of light or sources of darkness, and by darkness I mean either malicious entities or my ego, it was about 50-50, I would say, for a little while. And that was painful.
Yeah.
because there was a period of time where I was accepting 100% of it as like good.
Yeah.
And then I ended up in I painted myself in a corner at one point following what I was receiving. And then once I got in that corner, I was like, oh crap, what have I done? And I went back and started reevaluating the different things I'd received.
Yeah.
And as I reevaluated, I kind of figured out it was about 50-50. And the cool thing was, I was like, wow, 50% of that was good. And that was some cool stuff. So that was great. Right.
Yeah.
And then I realized, man, like I need more careful here. And so I really started working on the 10th season virtues. Right. And there was like a period of time where like I was just really cautious. Like whenever I started having an experience, I would take quite a while, like trying to evaluate it and make sure it was good before I would let it run its course. And it was actually like kind of tedious and frustrating to me. Yeah. But then I remember like a specific time. It was probably like 3 or 4 years ago. It was during the 10th season. So like, end of December, early January. About 3 or 4 years ago, I was feeling really frustrated with how much work it took to like evaluate an experience before I could just submit to it. And I was just feeling really grumpy about that. And then during that season, something clicked and my body just sort of shifted some way during the 10th season where it just came much more naturally to me. Mm-hmm. And that's just another example of how the seasons have power. Yeah.
Yeah. The kind of the work you had put into that point really manifested in like, I'm in the groove now, right?
Yeah. And I feel grateful to have that time where it was hard because I learned a lot.
Yeah.
And I feel grateful that I feel grateful to try things that didn't work. So I own the principle it doesn't work. Like I don't have to believe anyone else. I own that principle. I know this doesn't work. And I'm grateful for the consequences that came, even though they were painful. Because those painful consequences allowed me to own the lesson. Like if I were to avoid the consequences, the agency, the use of agency would mean nothing.
It's interesting. I'm glad you kind of summarized that idea. I think a few times through this discussion today, whether it's parades or like the process of developing, or like identifying these principles or living them, like you just like this specific. It was a pretty specific example about like, like the visions and using that manifestation as a positive. I think this goes back to seasons. It's just you've really identified that it's not the rush to the end goal, right? It's never the rush to the end goal. The end goal is never the destination is not the victory. It's the process is the victory for you. And that's a really important thing, Josh. Like that's super valuable. And I think like for me speaking with you this evening, it's just good to be reminded that it's taking the time and being the process is the most important piece.
Thank you very much for pointing that out. In so many ways, I think that's at the heart of the 9th season, because so much of it's about like use your senses to just be here now. Like how long has it been? It's good to ask yourself, how long has it been since you went outside at night and just looked at the stars without needing to get anywhere? Like I found it a really powerful practice, even just once a day, go outside, set a timer, even just like 2 minutes or 3 minutes. Once a day, go outside, set a timer. And just during that time, like just see and hear what's around you. Mm-hmm. It's torture at first.
I believe you.
It's so hard at first if you're not used to that because your brain is so addicted to getting stuff done. It's such a horrible addiction. It's our most like in America, it's our biggest addiction. We don't know it.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh man, I'm supposed to get stuff done. I can't be just standing here. Like, what's wrong with me? And but then if you just stay there long enough, like you do it enough days, it starts becoming more and more like normal. And and it's just amazing the things you start noticing. Now, I was doing this the other day here in our front lawn, and like these birds flew by, like lots, and the birds flew by, and they just kept coming. Like so many birds. Like every time I thought the birds were done, there's like more birds came. And they just kept getting more and more and more birds. I was like, how many birds are going to keep coming? And then finally they all went by and there were no more birds. And it just felt like this amazing thing I just witnessed. And I was just like thinking to myself, like, this probably happens all the time.
Sure.
And I'm in my house not seeing it, just trying to get stuff done. Like,
yeah. It's a great point. And I think you're right, not even just getting stuff done, like you talked about earlier, just thinking, right? You just talked about thinking, like we have to just keep thinking. And so that's another piece to it, I think, is you're right. I need some practice on that, Josh. Just to take 2 minutes or whatever it is to just let life come.
Yeah.
Let the birds fly.
Yeah, I love how you said that. And it just takes practice. That's all there is to it. It just takes practice, and it takes not getting mad at yourself, because it's really easy. It's so hard to not think. And if you say to yourself, "I'm not going to think," then it's like saying to someone, "Don't touch that hot iron over there." That's the best way to not succeed. So saying to yourself, "Stop thinking," it doesn't work. And if you notice you're thinking and you go, "Oh, I'm thinking," and you get mad, that doesn't work either. Like it's just a matter of just, because your thought, your awareness has to be focused towards something. The awareness can't, at least in my experience, the awareness can't just do nothing. It has to point towards something. So if you don't want it to point towards this incessant train of thought, you point it towards your senses. So you just point it towards what the data coming in through the eye, the data coming in through the ear, the data coming through the different senses. And you point it towards your breath. That's like, Buddhism focuses a lot. Like Buddhism's a great source to go to if you want to practice perception, because it's kind of like the point of the religion. It's like the thing they're all about. So that's like a great gift that humanity has all these different cultural and religious traditions that are all gifts to us, that are all scattered across the world. And one of the great gifts that we have Buddhism as a tradition, people have spent thousands of years figuring out how to not think. And they've been practicing a long time and learning a lot, and they've written a lot about it. And in Buddhism, they say the trick is just to focus on your breath, doing things like counting breaths, just noticing that you're breathing, and let all your thought let your awareness just go towards noticing breath, or noticing your senses, like we talked about. So I think that, that's the thing, is like negative, like punishing yourself doesn't make it better. It's just and then it's just like what your awareness goes towards. And if you try to put your awareness towards your senses or your breath, like what's going to happen is you will it'll go great for a little bit, and then that thought train's going to come back in, because that's just the way it is. And then thought comes back in, you just kind of fold it back up, and you go like, "Thank you for showing up. Hey, let's look at this together," right? you just keep like redirecting it without any chastisement. So.
Well, Josh, I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot, but I have one.
Okay. Oh no, you're frozen again. Okay.
For technology working right, so I apologize about that. But final question, like around perception. We talk about a lot of things about perception. Is there anything else that as you've talked and as you prepared to do this, about perception that we haven't talked about, that you think we need to cover before today ends?
That's always the best question for the end, right? I think it's the reaction principle. So one of the 9 principles, I usually list it as number 8, is reaction, meaning like reacting to your senses. So this would be like if your vision picks up like a a tree about to fall on your head, you dodge it, right? You react to what your perception is telling you. And we talked a lot about spiritual perception today. And it's when you get those spiritual downloads, right? Like, so you engage with the spiritual world, your body translates it into something that the body can comprehend, which could be a visual or could be who knows what, right? It could be a voice, it could be like a feeling, it could just be pure thought. Like your body somehow translates it into something that the body can process.
Mm-hmm.
That it's really important to react to that. It's important to do something about it. Otherwise, like, why?
Do you have any examples that you can think of? And maybe you don't. So I don't want to put you on the spot, but
no, I have lots. I was trying to think which ones come to my head first. Well, I mean, a really simple example is just with, there was a lot of spiritual perceptions that resulted in learning these 13 principles, and then the reaction is living it after that. Like imagine if you said to a friend, you told your friend a really important piece of information, and they went, "That's so cool," and then just lived like they never heard it.
Sure.
You probably wouldn't feel as motivated to talk with them more about that as you would if they ran with it.
Yeah.
Especially let's say that you have like 100 friends and a bunch of them are like acting on it and doing stuff with it, and some of them aren't. Like you only have so much attention to give to the whole group. Like you're gonna focus your attention on the people that are doing something with it, right? And so in a similar way, when we have spiritual downloads and we react or act on them, right? We react to them with intention. And I think it's react intentionally, right? Like there's you can react unintentionally, which is just kind of like ego haphazard, just knee-jerk reactions, right? They're usually based on like trauma and programming. So, but if you react with intention, like be thoughtful about how you react to it. When you do that, then like it increases the likelihood you'll have more experiences like that.
Mm-hmm. I like that. That's a great principle, Josh. Thanks for sharing that one.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, I think that's it for today.
Well, I apologize. I had such bad tech issues, but I have really enjoyed talking with you. I have had a great time.
Thank you. This was really fun, and it's so good to have you here. It's when I started doing these live streams, I just did them by myself, where I just got on and just chatted to the void. It's just so much more fun to talk with a person on them, because it's like you have this back and forth and it like directs things.
Yeah. It is fun. It absolutely is fun.
All right. Well, you have a Jamie in the chat. Thanks you for being here, Braden, as do I.
Thanks, Jamie, for helping out. Appreciate you getting the link over.
And yeah, that's it. Ending these is always kind of awkward. It's like, and done. But that's what I'm going to do. So thank you so much. Love you. It's been great to have you here. And enjoy a great. We have 2 more weeks of perception season, and I hope you have some great perception experiences during that time. And good night. Oh, you're frozen again. Well, I'm assuming you're saying goodbye. Goodbye.